Hey guys, I'm Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, and in today's video, we're going to talk about which internet package is better for my home-based business. Should you go with the business package or should you go with the residential package? This was a question that was recently asked from me by actually not only customers but by administrative assistant because she had moved and she was wondering which was better. Obviously, the price for the residential package with any case, with any carrier, Comcast, Verizon, Time Warner, Cox, whatever, no matter where you are, typically, as you guys know, the high speed internet package for residential service is always cheaper than the package for business. But if you're running a home based business, the question then becomes which is better? We're going to get into some points that I'd like to share with you, and then really this video leaves it to you guys to decide which you think is actually better for your business. I'm going to lay out the points. Some are my opinions, but most are facts on kind of the differences between the two and what you can expect in the different levels of service. And then you decide for your home-based business, if you're looking to switch, which one you think is better. Before we get into that, keep in mind at Rich Technology Group, we don't run service for residential. We cannot run it. We only run service for commercial accounts. However, if you have a home-based business, like you're putting the service under a business name or under a corporate business EIN, we can run service for your home-based business. We do it all the time. We can't run residential. So the choice is yours after I go over these points. So let's get into it. Number one is the price difference. As I already stated, there is a difference in price, obviously. Typically, you can expect that price difference to be somewhere within the ballpark from what I've seen in the market from working with all the different carriers, somewhere in the ballpark of anywhere from 16 to 20% more before taxes difference. I would say somewhere between 16 to 20% difference between residential and commercial packages. That is not always the case. I want to make that very clear because there are a lot of cases where we've seen where companies like Verizon and Comcast have these promos. Like, for example, Comcast had for years, and they may still have it, what they called the Comcast Triple Play. And that was a thing where if you had triple service, if you had cable TV, high-speed internet, and phone lines, they gave you that package at a really good price. And they used to run that for businesses as well. I don't remember what the exact difference in price was between the residential and the business, but I do remember hearing people tell me what the price was for the business triple play, and I thought it was pretty good. I mean, in some cases, it was better than what I was paying for residential service years back with Comcast for high-speed internet and cable and phone. So I don't want to make you sit here and think that the business internet is going to be significantly more expensive than residential, because that's not the case. It's usually just slightly more expensive. But if you're a business, you can justify it. And we're going to get into those points in a little bit. Plus, remember, it's a tax write-off. Bandwidth sharing and content throttling is number two. This is a big one. If you are using a residential package, you are literally sharing internet with like your next door neighbor, your next door neighbor's kid, who when they get off of school, they download a bunch of stuff, and they basically just eat up the network bandwidth that's allotted to the neighborhood. We'll just call it your neighborhood. You are literally sharing bandwidth with people in your neighborhood that are doing God knows what that has nothing to do with business purposes. So if you're like me and you're a night owl and you like to work in the evenings and at night versus work during the day, I'm a night owl. I like to stay up late and work real late when the kids are asleep and it's peace and quiet, and I can get things done like quotes. I can work on the website. I can do marketing. I can work on my YouTube video scripts for the following week. I'm a night owl. So for me, slow internet after hours, like after the hours of 5 and 6 up until 12 o'clock in the morning or even 1 o'clock, for me, that's no bueno. It's just not going to work. So for you, it's really up to you to decide. Can you deal with having the issues with the peak time? If you're sharing internet with a bunch of folks in your neighborhood, you're probably going to see really slow internet and really high peak times where everybody in your neighborhood or in that zip code is killing the internet early in the morning between the hours of 8 and 9, 7 and 9, we'll say 7 and 9. You're gonna see it somewhere between lunchtime, between the hours of, we'll say, like 11:30 and 1 p.m. And you're gonna definitely see it between the hours of 5:30 and later, because that's when everybody's home and they're on the internet and it's all for pleasure. And you're trying to work and they're just tearing up the internet because they've got stuff to do that has nothing to do with constructive stuff, and that's not their problem. So you gotta understand that. Now, if you have a business connection, most of the providers understand that business needs bandwidth, a lot of bandwidth. that is allotted for business needs. So usually if you have a business package, you're not only going to get better bandwidth, you're going to get more consistent, more stable, and more reliable bandwidth because that's what you're paying for. So that is point number 2. Is if you go residential, you're going to deal with bandwidth throttling. If you go commercial, you're typically going to be in a better spot there. And if you do run into throttling problems with commercial, you have more leverage to be able to call your carrier and say, hey, I run a business. This isn't what I'm paying for. With residential, if you call them up and say that, they're going to say, oh, we're sorry. We see that you have a residential package. Would you like to upgrade to the business package since you're clearly running a business? So just understand that. Number 3, better equipment and better equipment like routers and modems from your ISP. This is a big one for those of you who are either using a hosted IP phone system or who are thinking of using a hosted IP phone system or have other sophisticated things in your home office, which we have seen like backup drives, and you've got maybe employees that live remotely and they need to access it or something like that. Or you've got like a server or something like that in your office that needs to connect to some sort of custom static IP or something like that. You are going to get residential equipment, which is residential grade, which is not designed for business equipment or to run a business from your ISP. And you may have problems. We have seen this many times in the industry, especially in Richmond, Virginia, where our tech base is, where we're home based out of. We see this all the time where somebody's wondering why this doesn't work right with XYZ. And then we find out, look, you're trying to run business grade equipment and applications on residential equipment from your ISP. So just understand that. If you've got residential service, they've given you residential equipment, which is not technically rated to handle business applications. And if you call and complain, they will tell you that. And they will again say, can we interest you, sir or ma'am, in upgrading to a business account today? Number 4 is a really simple, easy one. You are, quite simply put, you are going to get better customer service all day, every day across the board if you have commercial internet service or commercial internet package than you are ever going to get if you have residential. I am not saying that the customer service and support is bad at the companies on the residential side. What I'm saying is that you have to understand those companies are also dealing with businesses that pay a lot more than you do to be able to get better service faster at a higher priority. So it doesn't mean they don't care about you. It just quite frankly means you're not paying enough for them to put you first. So you need to understand if you pay for residential service, you're only going to get residential service when it comes to customer support and service. A great example is we've worked with, I had Comcast for residential years back, but I've also obviously with Rich Technology Group worked with many people with Comcast on the commercial side. For my residential service that was at my old apartment many years back, whenever I called and I had a problem like internet down or I told them I thought my modem was bad and I needed it replaced, they just got to me whenever they got to me. It might take 3 days, it might take 4 days, it might take 5 days. Sometimes they would forget about it altogether and I wouldn't hear from anybody for 2 weeks until I called back in upset and said, what about this? And they were like, oh yeah, you again. We'll get somebody out there. That's just the way it is sometimes. You got to understand these are big companies. On the commercial side, I work with people all day long. I usually get companies like Comcast, Verizon, Suddenlink, whatever. If our commercial customers have a problem, even if they're small accounts that only have like a basic internet with 2 people in the office, because they're commercial, we usually get somebody out there within 24 hours. Sometimes maybe a couple of days, but usually if it's urgent enough, like internet down, it's same day service typically for most of them, unless something is up, like there's an outage in the entire area, meaning you're just in line with a bunch of other people that are also on a business account that need dire help. But typically, you're going to get Johnny on the spot response if you've got a business package in comparison to what you're going to get on a residential package, which is quite frankly, yeah, we'll get to you when we get to you, because that's what you're paying for. And number 5 is static IP addresses. You can't get static IP address. You cannot get a static IP address block on a residential account, period. End of story. So if you're watching this and you're somebody that runs a home-based business, and let's say you have a server in your office and you have other people that need to access that server remotely, you have to have some form of static IP addressing or configuration in your office. They're not going to be able to access that without static IPs, and you cannot get what we call a block of static IPs on an account for a residential package. Most commercial packages typically include like one static IP address that comes like with the package, no matter what lower internet package you went with. If it's a business grade one, it has it. And then if you need more, like 2 static IP addresses or 3 static IP addresses, it's usually a nominal cost, like $16 extra a month for a block of 3 to 5 more static IP addresses or something like that. But again, understand that if you need like remote access services, remote desktop services, VPN, you need your staff or somebody outside of your office to be able to access your network from the outside for business purposes. You got to have some form of static IP addressing, and you have to have a business package to get that. You cannot get that through residential service. So again, this is the video, which is better for my business, for my home-based business internet, a residential or commercial package. I hope you guys found this informative. If you're watching this and you're not sure which is right for you and you'd like to pick my brain and like my opinion, feel free to give me a call. My number is in the description on the video, or you can email me. I'm here to help. Don't forget to subscribe to our video. Again, I'm Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, and I'll check in with you guys again soon.